podcast discusses child sexual abuse and the impacts of harm on children and families. While we won't include graphic detail, some listeners may find this content distressing. Please take care while listening and consider pausing or seeking support if you need to. There's many and varied support services available, including Lifeline on 13 11 14, Kids Helpline for 5 to 25-year-olds on 1800 55 1800, and the Sexual Assault Helpline on 1800 010 120. If you're outside of Australia, we encourage you to seek a local support service. Welcome, Hetty. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your commitment and dedication to child safety is undeniable. Whenever there is a spotlight on an issue, you're there, and that's why we're really grateful that you've joined us on the episode today to share your insights.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So you were an expert advisor to the review, which produced the In Plain Sight report. Reflecting on the report and that process, talk us through what that was like for you.
I always love it because these are the opportunities to make change. This is when those of us at the coalface get to share what we see, what we believe with the people that make the decisions. So it's always exciting, and I've always got so much to say, but I'm really, really wrapped with the report. So I think it's just such a privilege. I just feel so privileged and honoured to have been a part of it.
Let's jump into some of the topics that were covered in the report and the findings. We'll start with this concept of shared responsibility. So the report makes it clear that child safety is every shared responsibility. This is something that people talk about a lot, but also that accountability has often been unclear. From your decades of advocacy in this space, tell us what real accountability actually looks like, particularly when it comes to protecting children from sexual abuse.
I think real accountability, you can see it when everyone from the boardroom to the sandpit is involved, when everyone understands what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how to do it. That's accountability. And, we need to have boards and management focused on that, because if they're not focused on it, then if the board aren't asking for reports and aren't accountable themselves as a board and individually, then they're not going to be focused on this, because this doesn't make money. And so get the board focused, and then you get the CEO having to deliver those reports, because the CEO has to deliver the reports, goes to management, then all of a sudden everyone's interested because they have to come up with answers to questions. So accountability, sadly, look, in my years and years and years in this, I think we all think, well, I do, these are children. They have to be everybody's priority, surely, but they're not. They are not. And so the reality is it's a big stick and a big that works, and also just changing the culture of organisations and society generally to uplift the well-being of children as a national priority.
As you were talking there, culture is the word that sprang to mind for me. How do we actually change culture? It seems there's lots of people talking about it and suggesting that that is the solution. How do we do that?
Again, it's back to accountability and back to training and, just getting everyone understanding their role in this and then taking it on. It's like workplace health and safety. I've been saying this for a decade or more now, and to anyone who'll listen, workplace health and safety is a shared responsibility in all workplaces, and that's exactly where this is going. It'll be the same. I see the recommendations are looking broader than, just specifically child protection organisations, broader to organisations and businesses who engage with children as part of their operations. Really important. As workplace health and safety started with deaths, and then an inquiry, and then with the mining industry and big factories, and then it came right down to industry, and it goes right through now all of society. And that's where safeguarding of children is going to go. While I'm breathing, I will be pushing and pushing and pushing for that. But I do believe it will get there, because governments are now invested in making changes that work and prioritising children, because the public are increasingly demanding it, and politicians don't really do much unless there's a groundswell of support or push or for them to do it. So
you often talk about this analogy with workplace health and safety, and particularly some of the practices that we have in our homes, having a fire blanket, having fire extinguisher in our homes, where there is no legal need for us to have that, but because we now have this awareness of safety, we're bringing that into the home. Do you really, is that what you're talking about with changing this societal culture in terms of prioritising child abuse prevention?
That's exactly right. And you know what, that just makes me tingle all over, because I know that's going to happen. I hope I'm around to see it. Because when you're an organisation and you're training your staff to identify sex offending, to understand what to do, how to do it, all those really important things that we should all know. You know, it's not just your business or your organisation that benefits from that. The staff, the people that are learning that, take that knowledge home with them, where most of the abuse occurs. And that empowers them to protect our little people. You know, that's exciting for me. We just need government to make sure that the support services are there and that we start believing children. That's the number one problem, you know, across foster care, across everything, is we're not actively seeking the voice of children. So it's really important that we do that.
What's your message to organisations around the voice of children? So we now have child safe standards coming into play, and that is one of the standards. What's your message to organisations about embedding that, and how do they do that?
Well, when it comes to the voice of children, if a child discloses that they've been sexually assaulted, like someone's touched them somewhere or whatever, believe them. Believe them. The research, 96, 98% of the time, children have been found to be telling the truth. As uncomfortable as that can be, and, you know, it really can be very uncomfortable, whether it's a partner in life or whether it's a workmate. And then all of the paperwork, it's uncomfortable. But believe them. Because if you don't, you betray that child's whole life, change the trajectory, potentially, fatally, if children are not believed. So my biggest message in everything is believe children. So I think once we start doing that and wrapping the services around those children and at that time as best we can, and stopping the trauma from occurring post harm, then we start to change the whole dynamics of things, and we start firing a few warning shots across the bow. I mean, we've got a situation where 1 in 4 children are sexually assaulted before the age of 16, right? So 1 in 4. That's every classroom, every childcare centre, everywhere you're going to walk and see a group of children, think 1 in 4. And then we've got the other research that tells us from Michael Salter that 1 in 10 adults would sexually offend against a child if they thought they would get away with it. So we're not talking about something that's a small problem. This is a massive problem, and it shows itself. Those people, those 1 in 10, are drawn to interact with children, to jobs. So they're going for the jobs in the schools, in the childcare centres, in places, you know, YMCA, P&C, wherever, where children are. So it's really not a big stretch to go, well, hang on a minute. If 10% of the population are likely to do this if they get a chance, let's not give them one. And that's what this is all about, shutting the door. Front door of the business is your first and best opportunity to get rid of the sex offender, not once they're through.
There's shocking statistics that people need to be aware of, and the report does go through some of those statistics as well. Talking about the system pressures, we often hear pressure cited as a reason for system failure. In your view, what is the danger of accepting pressure as an explanation or an excuse when children are harmed?
It's a cop-out. That, you know, we want you to be under pressure. We want organisations and people to be under pressure to do the right thing to protect children. I mean, because we've tried everything else. Everything else has fallen on deaf ears. I can't tell you how many for-profit businesses and not-for-profit that I've been to over the many years, 30-odd years, or short of that, asking them to, you know, and you talk to them and they're, we care about our kids. We've got kids too, we've got grandkids too. And you think, right, they're going to do this. And they don't. Because it's not a priority at the toppest level of the organisation. It's not being discussed at a board level. The money's not being provided. The pressure is not being applied from the board downhill, right? Because you can... And it's interesting when you talk to boards, because sometimes when they do engage, it's like watching the penny drop off the board table, and it just filters right through the whole organisation and it changes culture. It does change culture because it changes responsibility. It makes everybody accountable.
How do we strengthen community awareness and culture change to prevent child sexual abuse?
We just keep going. We just make sure the laws are there, make sure they're properly monitored and enforced, that we just got to do all the things we say we do. You know, we say we do lots of things, but we don't do them, or if we do them, we don't do them very well. So I think we have to prioritise it. Simple. It's not rocket science. Truly it isn't. We just have to prioritise. Everyone has to take the safety of children, or 90% of us, let's scrap the other 10, have to prioritise the safety of children, understand the danger they face, the threat that they're under, and get on their team and support them. And I think, you know, we just have to keep sending that message. This report is just amazing for that. We just need to keep sending the message and helping people to understand the prevalence and the likelihood that there's probably, I would say there's nobody anywhere alive, an adult, who, if they haven't been offended themselves, who doesn't have someone very close to them that has been. And if they think they haven't, then they're not paying attention, right? Because somebody is. With 1 in 4, it's in all our lives, and it shouldn't be. And most of us can see the damage that causes on a person's life, potentially. And we need to avoid that at all costs. That's what we do as parents. I like to think that most of us love our children, take a bullet for them. Why wouldn't you learn about this huge threat that faces? It's one of the biggest threats to face children and their long-term viability and happiness, you know, and success in life. It's a huge threat. It's there every day. Do something about it. Learn it.
You say we have to prioritise it. Yeah. There's no other option. What are the barriers standing in the way of that?
Money. Money mostly, and time. You see the parents, when I was with Bravehearts, we did the education program. It was really hard to get parents to come along to before we delivered the program to the children, to get parents along to learn. I think parents think they know this stuff, or they don't need to know it, because like me, I was in that boat. This is not my little white picket fence. It doesn't happen in here. It happens everywhere, across the whole of society, it doesn't matter with the socioeconomics of it. It's everywhere, from the wealthiest to the poorest. And so I just think there's a level of awareness that we have to increase. The dysfunction and, you know, the lack of awareness around this is such a tragedy for children, not just in, you know, daycare centres and childcare and schools and so forth, but in the family court. That's a cesspit. Foster care, I'm glad there's an inquiry going on there at the moment. Anywhere where children are, they're just being destroyed by adults, and we keep having these inquiries, but we don't ever really just go, look, put me in charge of it, and it would be like that. If I was the Prime Minister for a year, watch this space. You know, then we would make sure that this was number one. And yeah, we've got to care for society. There's no secret of the, you know, youth crime, the link between youth crime and childhood dysfunction, sexual abuse, harm, you know, abuse by parents against their children. There's a huge link there, and we need to do something about it. We can't just keep throwing people in jail. I mean, yeah, I know that's necessary at times, but we need to prevent. There seems to be this real reluctance to invest in prevention, because you don't see the results of an investment in prevention for 10 years or maybe 12 or 15 years, then you start to see it turn. Politicians are run on 3 and 4 year, you know, they're not, so some, you know, political connectivity around an agreed strategy to turn this ship around, because Australia's not in a good place, nowhere in the world, but Australia doesn't do very well at all, so we really need to pick up our game.
You've just started talking about actions for governments, and you've advised governments and contributed to multiple inquiries over the years. Based on that experience, what needs to happen right now to ensure the findings of and recommendations of In Plain Sight lead to real change, and importantly, so that it doesn't lead to just being another report?
That's going to be over to people like myself and the community and the media and David Christofoli et al., right? It will be a measure of his government as to whether or not he does this or not. Some of these changes are really big and they're bold. They will not throw the system on its head, but that's what needs to happen, because the system, with all the inquiries we've had and the years of it, including the Royal Commission, we're just sort of moving the chairs on the Titanic. We're not flipping it. We're not sort of pumping it up and keeping it up there. What am I trying to say? We need a whole, complete overhaul of the system. Foster care as well. It's not working. It's not working like it should. Children's, the interests of children or the views of children are not being sought. They're taken away from their families. Some of them, when they're verbal, as long as a child is verbal, you can seek you do it with forensic interviewing. It's a thing, it's a legitimate way to interview a child without traumatising them. But to find out where they want to be, where they're loved, where they feel safe, that's the important thing. The priority of, at the moment, the current priority is that, the child has a right to be with its birth parents. That's about the birth parents, not about the child. The child has a right to be safe, loved, nurtured, supported. That's the best interest of the child right there. That can happen in a biological family, but it can also happen in a foster family or a kinship family or somewhere else. And we're not finding the answer to that. We're just going, back to mum and dad, no matter what's going on there. I've seen that too many times. That just breaks my heart, absolutely crushes me to see that happen. But it happens and it shouldn't.
So what I'm hearing from you, Hetty, the 3 areas of immediate action are required in leadership, believing children, and prioritising this as with ultimate importance. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with?
Well, not just believing children, but actively, professionally seeking their views on this. And when we talk about it, it's in the rights of the child, but we don't want to hear it, so we don't ask. Or we'll traumatise them if we ask. And none of that is true. I think that's for me. It's not just believing, but listening, believing, getting down on the little chair, listening, believing children and responding appropriately to make sure they're happy, they're safe, they're not feeling broken, torn and traumatised by the systems that are there to protect them. And that's what's happening at the moment.
Enabling real action.
Absolutely. Action that makes a difference for children, because that's about them, because it's all about them.
Hetty, thank you so much for spending some time with me on this episode. Your advocacy in this area is remarkable, and I'm really grateful that you've shared your insights with me today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.